So, on behalf of ECHA, it is with great pleasure that I welcome Stephen Heppell to ELTHAM College.
Thank you. Oh, crikey, I'm pretty pleased to be here. I'll just swivel that out of the way because I think you've got me with this Madonna mic pretty well. Let's do boats first, crikey. Here we are. So I sail a boat. It looks like that. There it is. It's a lovely old thing, 107 years old, I think, this year. Mine's the one on that side, on your left as you look at it. That's the finish of a race, and yes, we won by by about an inch. We won because we've got a longer bowsprit than the other one. There's just enough. And I actually live on the boat in the winter, so tied up in next to the Tower of London, which is quite. Hey, you should live on a boat. It's good. It's good fun. He said when you open the hatch, all the snow falls on your head, which isn't quite so good. And look, there's the Queen's boat, and there's us hiding just behind it. So good company. But let's go to the Queen first. Actually, I can be British a bit here. So I was with her just last week, funnily enough, and here she is, old Liz. She would certainly be the oldest person in the room tonight. And I've been a professor for 25 years, and she's opening the Science Museum's gallery of modern communications, which is all the old stuff for the last 100 or so years. I mean, it goes back 200 years at most. And she sent her first tweet. Here she is. Look, there's the Queen tweeting. I was there for her tweet. So I suppose, here's an old grandmother tweeting who probably somebody butters her toast, So I kind of hope you're all on Twitter by the end of the evening. You should be anyway. Should we look at a little bit of... Who's not on Twitter in here? Oh, no. Shame on you. Leave now. Well, we'll think about that as the evening goes on. Twitter's... On the one hand, Twitter is full of very dull celebrities saying, oh, I'm very famous, and I've just had scrambled eggs, and it's not very compelling. On the other hand, UK EdChat, Oz EdChat, EdChat in England, Australia, America, thousands of teachers, one night a week. In the UK, it's 8 till 9 on a Thursday, piling in to swap ideas with each other about how to do learning better. How would you not want to be part of that? And I've got a few thousand people follow me, and they're all interesting. So yeah, it's worth. You don't have to do anything. You just watch. It's entirely fine. But you could be like the Queen and send your own tweet. Here's the gallery, and it's full of stuff. Some of you will be old enough to remember black and white. Who can remember black and white televisions? Me too. I wasn't allowed to watch television with adverts until I was 13 because it was going to spoil me. I probably did. The telephone exchange where you had to plug in things. My very first connecting up deputy head teachers in the Clacton Teachers Centre in Essex. We were on the second floor. We were showing off electronic mail. It was the early 80s. And because mail didn't start with the internet, And so I'd press the space bar on my computer, my BBC B computer, I think it was. And on the floor below me, there was nobody. And on the floor below that, there was Doreen in the... and she would connect our computer to the world. But she didn't know when. So when I hit the space bar, I had to stamp on the floor. And somebody on the floor below stamped a little bit quieter. And it went down to Doreen, and it was all quite... It all worked, I spent quite a lot of time recoding the computer code to have a sort of Doreen lag. She was very predictably slow. She was like, oh, there's them upstairs, And that took about 13 seconds, as I recall. So good stuff, Now it's in a museum. I had to buy for my grandchildren phones like this because they couldn't, when I was talking about dialing a number or ringing somebody. They had no idea what I was talking about. They love it, by the way, the whole skill of, did you ever dial a number? Your phone's, I bet you didn't know, he didn't know that. So he's one of our student leaders that's over there. So, this is like gone dialing for old people. It's quite skillful. If you had a sweaty finger, it was always falling out of the thing. It didn't work very well. So look, this is Google thinking, let's film every street on the planet, Google Street View, with a bicycle, That's going to take a while, Google, Have you seen how big Australia is? And here's Morse code, which is quite excitingly. This is from just the other day. This is a mobile phone centre in Cameroon, and just a hut on the pavement, and round the back, look, people mending, fixing. You don't just buy, I just bought this phone the other day. You don't just buy a phone, you buy broken phones and make a phone. And more people in Cameroon have phones than have toilets. One of these little things you might want to think about tonight, Yeah, exactly. No, let's not go there. This is 1984. Steve Jobs. By the way, just while we're there with poor old Steve, and sad to have lost him, really. I knew him. We worked together. He was a good man. Here's how old are you? You see, I knew that because that's Steve Jobs' bedroom at 17. Those aren't pizza boxes. He wasn't doing a deal with Domino Pizza. They're computers. So he was kind of cracking on with, reinventing. Look, here's Bill Gates at school. What was Bill doing at school? He was too geeky to meet girls, so he had to kind of fake. Well, you can see what he did, to kind of fake the database so the good-looking girls were all in his classes. That was his. Microsoft started right there, You can see the trouble he had. Yes, let's move on. Sorry, back to wherever we were with our. Let's get back to the Science Museum. Never mind the poor old Queen. By the way, the Queen's bouquet there is made out of punch tape and computer cards. And usually she gives her bouquet to a bouquet-carrying person. I don't know what they call it. Queen's bouquet person. I helped do the website for Buckingham Palace many years ago, and we looked at all the people in Buckingham Palace, what their jobs were. There were two people, full-time job it was, to wind clocks. The Queen's clock winder and the Queen's senior clock winder. There they were, I said, why do you need two? They said, well, most of the clocks wind down in 24 hours, so, we have to take it in turns to wind them up. Nice work if you can get it, Anyway, so where were we? That's, Morse, round the back, yada yada, Steve Jobs. That's the first mouse. Doug Engelbart's mouse, his very mouse. One button on it, as you can see. That's a big computer. That's a really big computer. Till 1997, Russia thought they were going to win the Cold War with that computer. These all look like exhibits out of James Bond movies. In each one James Bond movie, he steals the tape with the data. Then it's the CD. Then it's the memory stick. Then the person's brain's in the cloud. It's like the history of computing. That was running till 1997. The biggest computer in the Cold War, bigger than anything the West had. My new iPhone, which is quite big, outperforms that computer. Now, it's like whopping. It kind of makes you think, doesn't it? When my daughter was 11, I've got two daughters and a son. You'll be seeing them in a bit. When my daughter was 11, actually should probably appear on FaceTime or something. When she was 11, in a rather sad way, I wrote down all the computer technology in the school she was leaving to go up to big school. And when she was 21, the phone in her pocket outperformed all the technology in her school when she left 10 years before. That's pretty much what happens. All the technology in this school, 10 years from now, when you're 27 and they're your little blatters running around, the phone in their pocket will be the equivalent of all the technology in this school today. It's quite a daunting thought, really. Anyway, let's scamper on, you know. I love the fact before they had keyboards, they had keyboards, you know. So nobody invented a typewriter, so let's put it on a keyboard. What could possibly go wrong, you know? There's another one. This is the radio station for the Titanic. When this was the very first Marconi installation, and you know, send the famous message, "We are seeking, send help now," which was made Marconi. And many people were saved, not sadly Leonardo DiCaprio was. You know, you may have your own opinion on that, but anyway, he's quite a nice bloke. I'm a BAFTA trustee, so I get to party with these folks, and he has a very quiet side to him, gives a lot of money to charity unexpectedly, and there's a bit of a glam pot as well, to be honest, you know. But so here's the extraordinary stuff. This is all within jolly nearly living memory, you know. This was the very first way they managed to connect a cable and send a message down it, and it was to let people know that trams had left Poplar tram station in the middle of London, you know. This is the first police portable radio. You wouldn't have to be a very fit crook, would you? The poor old policeman's wearing this, you know. You could just, you know, you can't catch me, you know. No, but I can radio on ahead. Oh, damn, you know. These were, this was a kind of funky computer for teenagers. Hey, let's make it fun. Let's make it curly at the edges. And teenagers said, "Yeah, really? Really? Can we just have one that works?" You know, like these Palms and Scions and stuff that you've probably still got in your bureau drawers at home, you know, or whatever. Loads of this stuff. I was standing in front of this. This was, you know, I've been 4 years helping this exhibition be put together. The only thing I knew nothing about was this. So the Duke of Edinburgh walks up and says, "So what's all this about then?" I haven't got the foggiest idea, but nor did he, so I just made something up. It was all right. The only reason I'm boring you with all this stuff, you know, I kind of need the padding really, but think how ambitious they were with that technology. They didn't just say, America's a long way away from Europe. They said, let's build a really big boat, bigger than we've ever built before. Let's fill it full of wire. We'll drive to America and pay out the wire till we get there and join it up. Then we can talk to each other, you know. Oh, by the way, we've never had a wire that long, so we've no idea how you can send an electrical signal down it because it'll be... So let's invent the moving coil galvanometer while we're about it. And anything else we need to do? Well, as we go, we don't know what the ocean floor is like, so we might as well check up on that as we go. I mean, amazing ambition. Or here's... what else? Here's Telstar, you know. We've got something happening in America, something happening in Europe. But by the time we recorded the tape, put it on a motorbike, taken it to the boat or the plane, flown it across in a Zeppelin, you know. By the time we'd done all that, it's over. Let's do that. What was the very first thing they did? A pop concert, you know. How cool's that, you know? He used to play in a band, he knows, you know. My second cousin was Keith Moon in The Who, you know, so the whole lot of pop stuff in my Auntie Kitty's Boy, you know. And what I love most about this exhibition is as you leave it, in the shop, you can buy clockwork robots and, you know, glow-in-the-dark stars that stick on your ceiling. But you can also buy 3D printers. Because, you know, our world has been radically changed. Well, this stuff, you know, and by radically changed, you know, what are we talking about with 3D design? Here's a bunch of kids in one of my schools. You know, and these kids are, what are they doing? They're drawing crayon work, and then they've turned their crayon work into 3D graphics. They've done I think, hopefully a better 3D graphic. Here it is. And then they've printed their 3D graphic on a 3D printer. And, you know, how old are these cheeky little blighters? They're 7, you know, so this is stuff that 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds do every day now. I mean, gosh, this is coming thick and fast. If I pop into, I go shopping in England in in Asda, which is like our Coles, really, like Coles but without the. Oh, I never thought if I've put my. Oh yeah, we should have some sort of signal here. Yeah. I'll leave that to cook for a minute. I think 4G down here isn't quite as good as it is upstairs. But as I go into the supermarket, they'll scan me with a camera, and I do my shopping. And as I leave, I pay them £30. What's that? $60, and I take away a 3D model of myself, full colour. You know, with your glasses would be, you know, your belt buckle, your shoes, you know, detailed stuff, and I just walk away. This is. I mean, Australia you just lost your car industry the other day. We've lost ours sometime before, but it'll be back. It'll be in every front room, in every village. In the, you know, you go up into the, you know, the country in Victoria. There'll be people saying, "I think I'm going to go to the high school prom. I think I'm going to go as Batman. Dad, will you print me the wings for a Batmobile?" And you'll be printing off the bits, sticking them on your car, and every car. And tiny children are doing this stuff. You know, here's a group of kids in Osprey Key. This is again one of my schools, and these kids, they came in at 5, and they saw in their room there's a great big case in the corner. They thought, oh, you know, and what do 5-year-olds do? We'll sit around it and look at it, you know. And then suddenly the case starts chatting to them. Says, "Hello, Andrew, how are you? You know, are you better? How's your dog?" The case seemed to know an awful lot about them. And on the case it says 3D robot, says robot repair centre, urgent. And what's in the case is a robot. And the robot is talking to them and knows all about them in great detail. And the robot says, "I'm the robot that does everything in school when you go home. And I'm broken, so you're going to have to build robots to finish off all the stuff at night. Good luck," you know. And it dies, you know. No. Because the robot is the teacher in the corner of the class who's just typing on her phone or her iPad. She's got a Bluetooth loudspeaker in the case. Whatever she types, it reads. You know that your phones will read anything. I just put the Formula One grid into my phone this morning just to test out how well it read every name. I can't do that. Some funny old names in there, you know. It read them perfectly, as far as I could judge. And you would know, wouldn't you? And so the kind of text-to-speech is pretty good. The students didn't think to look at the teacher. So, of course, they all rushed off and they said, "Blimey, we'd better build a marking robot. We'd better build a cleaning." This was their cleaning robot. Pretty cute. Here's their marking robot. Look, you just stick your book in the front and it prints it. Ka-ching, you know, hey, well done. I love that slightly equivocal look on its face. It's like, really? I like their pride, you know. They build loads of robots. They all are. And then, of course, you know, because it's a mixed-age school, one of the big kids, quite a big kid, comes in and sits down with them with a 3D printer and scans all their robots, and they all go home with their robot that night. They're 5-year-old kids, 3D printing, speech-to-text technology, Bluetooth, you know, what's not to like in all this? You know, and by the way, that metacognitive reflection of how can we build a better school, you know, with the robots is pretty cute, and I honestly don't know what your students are capable of. I've no idea. I do know in this school where we have students working with Sunseeker. You know, Sunseeker make very posh motor yachts. I think they have them in the James Bond movies, you know. That's the last James Bond reference tonight. I'm sorry for. I spent some time with Cubby Broccoli trying to persuade him to, at the end of the James Bond movie, every name that goes past, I said how cool it would be if you clicked on a name and they said, "I'm Key Grip, I'm best boy, but actually I'm a girl." You know, wouldn't it be interesting if you saw what all those jobs were? But he liked the mystery of the film just appears, but I wanted children to know what they did. But anyway, last James Bond reference. So here's hull testing. You know, we're building better shaped hulls with Sunseeker. You pull the hull through the water with a weight. You look at what weight you need. You look at how fast it goes. Cool stuff. Of course, we do that with 7-year-olds in that school. So I don't know. We used to do that. That used to be undergraduate stuff, as far as I remember. She looks quite pleased with herself, doesn't she? She is quite pleased with herself. And, yeah, and so I think what we're starting to see around the world are people saying, you know what, we could do this differently. Let's look at a couple of examples. Here's rather fondly, actually, this is one of my Danish schools. I'm rebuilding education in part of Denmark, around the Lego factory. As I walk into the school, this graphic is on the wall, and look, it's the measure man, the dreaded measure man, is always made up of rulers, and he's trying to catch the imagination of the children with his measure man net. You know, that could be like a sort of Naplan man, you know, and of course their hands are butterflies, you know, flitting through space in a rather jolly way. Oh, girls, do you want to see before you go? Do you want to see some other people's classrooms? Do you want to have a look at other people's classes? Come on, let's do it. Before you go, I've got to show you this. Do you want to see other people's schools? This is so cool. So this is what the other guys are doing, and it's definitely worth a look. So how good would it be if, when you came to school in the morning, the whole school smelled of fresh bread, and you get to eat it? So that's this is in Denmark. School has a bread oven right in the middle, or this one where you get to sit with older students, the younger students. You get to take your shoes off when you're learning. I had to say all my shoes are shoeless. No idea why it works. You could speculate, but the short version is it's actually really hard to be naughty when you got your shoes off. I mean, it's just how it is, you know. I challenge you to be a bully with your shoes off. Somebody stamp on your toes, you know. So here's how much fun would it be if you imagine if you were in this school in Japan, where the year before you go to school, you get to play in the net above the school. So here's the class, and you get to play in the net above the school. Kind of drop things on them. Good. Or here's these are all kind of fun. This is a storytelling room in Denmark where you go into the whale for storytelling, and the other side of the curtain is silver. So you turn the curtain around and let's go to the flying saucer. Or this school, which is in Victoria, where you get to sit in the dragon, you know, or if you take the head off the dragon, it could be a Viking longship. Or this one, where the students get to run around the park with their GPS devices called phones, and they draw a Christmas tree on the park. So you run around and you have to remember where you've been. I bet you could do a bicycle, couldn't you? To a circle and a circle. Great fun, you know. Or there's never seen that before, Andrew, have you? Or you could even learn to do. You've seen the Christmas tree, haven't you? Yeah. I thought so. Yeah, that's part of it. Look at this tiered seating, where the whole class gets to sit on a tier and look down at the teacher, which is quite nice. Or this staircase in Scandinavia, which was really boring till they turned it into a Stegosaurus, and now it's really scary. You go up the stairs and climb through the head. Or the teachers in this staff room on their AstroTurf. Or this Wilrama Park, just down the road from here. Or this place where they had a lot of vandalism. So they thought, I know, we build a skateboard park all around the school. Then the students won't ever go home. They'll just go around the school on their skateboards all night, and nobody will wreck the school, which they don't. Or this place where there's some bright colours. Or this one with funny chairs. Really hard to sit on these chairs. This is in Rotterdam. And if you sit on the chairs, you fall off. And so you have to work, because they're not stable. So you have to use your legs to stay on the chairs. Designed for teenage boys who really like to use their legs. Look, there's another school with all their shoes off. Or look at this library in Thailand, where if you want to be a good reader, well, you've got to be a good climber too. And you've got to shin up the top. Nobody's died yet. Look, there's all There's a crash mats. And look, what do you notice about their shoes? Shoeless, you know. Or well, there's so many. This one, this is a special room for stressed teachers. So when you're having a bit of a moment, you have to go into the room, and yeah, you can go now if you want. You go into the room for stressed teachers, which nobody wants to see, except that it's hanging on a cable and swinging from the ceiling in the middle of the school. So they said it'd make you feel better, but I think I wouldn't. I don't think I'd ever go in there, you know. Or this place in Spain where it's a classroom, but it looks like a cafe. Or this place where, I mean, just look at. Do you want to see what it's like to be in that school? Look, here are the students in that school, and it's one of my schools, and here they are. They have a lot of fun, but they're students of 5, 6, 7, and 8. They all just get on with their life, really. They know what they're doing. They're pretty self-organised. You can see, I think, not many people.
Guided reading.
Not many people sitting on the. Thanks for the sound of it, but I've killed it. They're sitting on the floor. Not many people sitting on the furniture. They're pretty self. Have you seen a teacher yet? No. And look how autonomous they are. Look how independent they are. Look how grouped they are. This lot are doing one thing. They're very aware of the camera. It's just somebody walking around with an iPad, doing a tour, funnily enough, for architects in Australia. And you just get a sense of how independent they all are. Can you see how good the light levels are in here? Can you see how nice it is to be in that space? Do you know how many children there are in there? 78. It's quite a big class. Somewhere there were 3 teachers. We don't know where they are. There's one, just walk past there. This lot are doing phonics. That girl's running the session. Everybody's doing what they're told. I think she's the youngest one there, but doesn't matter, it's mixed age. Just look how proud they are of their work. You know, it doesn't matter where I go in here, you'll see the same thing. Just they're all heads down and working. You see those screens? Those are their windows on the world. So they Skype to everywhere else to see what it's like to be in another school. Here's a group of children who were in Denmark, and they loved what this lot on the screen had done. This lot are in West London, and they did some pretty cool stuff. So this lot thought they'd copy them, and they were given this slightly hideous space. It is a hideous space, isn't it? And they said, okay, let's take all the research from everybody else and let's make it better for learning. What did they do? They put windows on the world. They had, this is quite interesting, they took tables because if you sit in the hollow, you have kind of private, intimate chats. If you sit in the convex bit, you kind of look around the room and have fun and, you know, chat away. So there were both. And they got a graffiti artist in to come and paint the walls because they couldn't afford to plaster them. We gave them almost no budget. Those boxes, every student made one box themselves. So lots of boxes. They like the idea of Skyping to other schools every day. So those are the regular Skype bars. They sit down and just chat to others. When I mean Skyping every day, I mean they're doing things like this. This is, we're going to need a sound off for this. This is one of my schools at Broadford Primary, one of my favourite schools. They've got a project on India for students, actually just the age of the girls here. And we're going to get there in a minute. Can I connect to the school network? I didn't think to do that, actually. Do I need a password for that, or is that? Okay, we'll keep running my little modem here. I don't know why it's I think we're in a kind of 4G skinny zone here. That's Can I pinch a password for the school system? I'm not going anywhere heinous, really. ENET or ENET? Thanks, that's kind. There you go. say yes to that, I suppose. Oh, well, that'll be me. Yeah. Good to go, I think. Do you reckon? Am I allowed YouTube, or is that? Oh, hang on. Oh, there's more. Asking me a lot. I have to tell you that the London Grid for Learning banned my website for a while because of criminal activity, which I thought was a bit harsh. I haven't even got points on my driving license, so I felt a bit miffed by that. And it was because my previous boat, had been called Cracker. And so the word cracker was all over my website. So they assumed I was a criminal hacker, which was so wonderfully naive of them, really. So I sent them an email saying, we could resolve this in two ways. You could stop banning my website or take a big lorry, fill it full of money and send it around to my house. So they went for the unlocking it, How are we doing?
I think it's loading.
Ah, cool, okay. Yeah, I think we're further on than we were, aren't we? Does that look promising? Shall we have another go at that? Is it a fast network? Yeah. Should be, it's my line. Can't open the... Well, I'll tell you what, we won't bother with that for now. I don't know what's going on there, but I'm just here to tell you that there's a little video of a man on a camel in India who knows the teacher's name of the kids and says, your teacher, Mrs. Smith, has asked me to tell you about India, but I'm on a camel. I can't talk now, but perhaps if you're happy, we could FaceTime later and you could chat. So the kids in their primary school, there's a man on a camel in India. He knows my teacher's name, It's brilliant. That sort of connectedness is pretty cool. So let's go back to this lot. Actually not that lot. Let's go back to this lot. Here they are. So they have a Skype bar at the back. But the best thing, we were just looking at this over lunch, is that the kids were fed up getting cross moments from their teachers because they'd run in the corridor. So they put a running lane in the corridor where you have to run. They kind of surveyed all the places they were in trouble with their teachers. And if you set foot on the green bit, you've got to run. You have to start running. Teachers have to run. And they're lovely, by the way. Of course, the head of the school is a lovely lady. Said, I think we better have a one-way system. And they said, really? You want us to run right around the school to get to that? I don't. We'll be okay, We run a lot. We don't collide. And of course, she's absolutely right. They genuinely don't ever collide, as far as I can see. Let's. Where should we go from here? Let's take a moment to look at what happens when we give children the power to rebuild their own classroom. So, in Madrid, I'm a professor in UCJC in Madrid, and also in England, in Bournemouth. And this is on the sign of one of my schools, and it's a permanent sign. Since it's always under construction, never going to be finished. And you'll notice some of it's in English, because they're kind of aware the world's watching. And this is a group of children we gave a lot of money to. We gave them €500 to make over their classroom, the 2 classrooms. And it's a 3-year project. Took a long time. And here's the day we opened it. The mayor of Madrid was in, a Real Madrid football player was in. It's pretty cool. And here they are opening. This is the kids here. And, they're pretty pleased with it, really. Here's the tables. See, their tables have got hollow bits, and they've learned from other kids. They haven't learned how to stick the edges on yet, so there's a bit of sellotape there. €500 for the whole thing. By the way, they like to stand up. They said, we're teenagers, we're sitting down all day. Why can't we stand? So they found an old locker, put it on its side, put a top on top, made a table, They liked having a wall that you write on. They're huge writable walls. The students today, we were talking about this over lunch, really like the idea of writing on a wall, take a photograph of your work with your phone afterwards. You're never going to copy down from a wall. That'd be silly. And, they got zones for reading with beanbags, IKEA beanbags. That piece of cloth came from Madrid market. They just hung it up. That sofa, here's a cupboard. They put it on the side, put foam rubber on top, threw a blanket over it. They really like the idea of having an interactive surface in their room. And how cool is that? €500 budget, 3 years. So we said, yeah, you can have one. So I said, right, we better make one. So they found themselves a board marker pen, ripped out the inside, put some wiring in. Then they found a Wii controller, from like there's loads of them lying around, stuck it on the side of an old projector that was already on the ceiling. And then when you write on the screen, your pen talks to the Wii controller, which talks to the computer, which gives you an interactive surface, you know. So in budget, your finance bloke's going to love this, I'll tell you. And at the end, when we said, tell us all about what you've done, they said, first of all, we'd like to give you a present. And they gave us back €100. And they said, yeah, we didn't actually need all the money. It was all right. We've done it for 400. And we're really pleased to have done it for 400. I won't show you the school where they did it for nothing. Do you want to see the school where they did it? Go on then. Because I think you ought to give them something, you know. But here's the school where they did it for no money. We said, we wanted to make over your classroom. The budget is nothing. And they still put in coloured mood lighting by painting light bulbs. They still had different coloured chairs by asking parents for old tins of paint and painting the chairs. They still loved the idea of having a three-sided space they could work in. Can you see that cave? Made out of chicken wire and brown paper, that is. That's, and they love the idea of a stage. Can you see behind me, there's a stage. Can you see the screen's cardboard? It's rather bizarre. So this lot built a model of tomorrow's classroom. But you know what? It worked because they were role-playing being tomorrow's students. They had 8 iPads, but only 2 of them were real. The other 6 were cardboard. And you could use it as a queuing system. You've got the number 4 iPad soon. You'll have the number 3. Soon you'll get a going one, you know. And it turned out role-playing, better learning, was better than bad learning. It's interesting when we think about some of the things that make learning bad. That's quite scary. Here's some work I've been doing with on light levels. I don't know what the best level for lighting is for learning, but I know it's always better than if you're just. You'd struggle, I think, in here not to be yawning a bit at this point because you haven't moved much and the light level is really low. In England, if the light level goes below, it's gorgeous. Auditorium, sound quality is brilliant, but you would want a higher light level for this sort of experience of somebody talking. Would want to be 250 at least. Shall I measure it? Let's have a look and see what it is. So 320. Yeah, probably is where you're sitting, I reckon, actually. I reckon that's pretty fair. I think I can't even find my lux meter, so what do I know? Very, very little, it seems. Oh, I don't know. Have you got yours running? Oh, it's perfect. There we go. So we're on 320 there, sort of 225 here. You guys are bathed in light up there. 160 on your knees, and over here, he's around about still 160 here. Over in the corner over here, it's getting pretty gloomy. You know, oh my God, it's got to be higher than that. Doesn't even register over there, so I'm back up to. So just about good enough for conversation in here. 500 to 450 for writing, and if I went outside today, you know, I'd probably be getting about 36,000, something like that today. So a huge difference. If you want to see an instant improvement in the exam results in this school, get the light in your exam room up to 1,000, and you'll see just like that. Guarantee you 2% gain. Really interesting, you know. I mean, and the parents send your kids in with lights on their heads, you know. So I had these kids running around doing what I know you've done here. Let me say, some of the architecture in this place, it's gorgeous. The 2-room facilities next door to here, jaw-droppingly good. We don't have facilities like that in either university. That's fab. But when we were talking today, I was talking to the students earlier about at what age they would want to go to university to study the things they're passionate about, not to study everything, just you love English, you love Dutch, whatever. Nobody said 18, did they? They all said, what would your age be? The thing you care about? When were you ready for college? 15 is pretty much a standard answer, actually. And then people think usually, they say, you know what, I probably could have made 14, you know. It's that sort of thing, which is interesting. So, you know, one great thing is to look at the science of learning while you're hanging around. These kids have done that, and they've rushed off, measured the light and the heat, the temperature in their school, looked at the best places for learning. They've built a presentation for their staff. Oh, not that. They built a presentation for their staff of the best learning spaces at 9, at 11, at 1, at 3 o'clock. They've done a sound comparative of the whole place. They've looked at everywhere. You know, they've said, you know what, the teacher's room is so flipping dark and noisy. How the heck could our teachers learn anything? You know, they need to sort that out. You know, and then they've looked at the details of it, and they've said, for example, nothing noisier than school chairs, dragging chairs. So let's do something about that. This is what they did. Oh, hang on. Have we got sound from that? Sorry. Just going to leave it up, really, I should have said. So here they are. Could be louder, that's real quiet. Ready? Perfect. Now silence. You wouldn't appreciate the silence if you hadn't heard how loud the chairs were. You know. Every chair in the school has now got feet on the soles, you know. You know, and of course have you seen CO2 levels in traditional classrooms? This is proper scary stuff. So here's a traditional classroom, 28 kids in a room, door shut, and you know, maybe the aircon on, but so that's the CO2 level by break. And that level is injurious. You know, 3,000 parts per million, you're into kind of damaged country there. 3,000 parts per million. I mean, the impact of global warming has taken you up from 118 to 220 in the last 50 years. That's huge, damaging change. And this is 3,000 parts per million. So, you know, a little kind of pedagogic waterboarding zone going on in there, you know, sort of, you know. And here, look, by the time they go out for lunch and come back, you're up to over 4,000. So then throw in the temperature, throw in the uncomfortable chairs, throw in the lighting. No wonder people struggle to do well in school often. We were chatting with the guys here. Look, an interesting question people often ask is, Stephen, they said, what happens when you build big open spaces for learning? Surely it all gets noisy, you know, the children will go around the walls. And do you want to see the data? It's really interesting. So here's, this is a project I'm doing with Tom Stacey, one of my PhD students. I've got some really sharp PhD students at the moment, so I have to run to keep up with them, you know. That, by the way, that's the light in an open, agile space. Day starts here. The light goes up with the sun goes down. This is in England, you know. The other traditional space with the door shut, paper stuck all over the windows. You know, the light is always too low, permanently too low. But look at the sound. This is much more interesting. Blue is the new big agile open space. Red, traditional classroom. There are 92 kids in the blue space, 28 kids in the other. Haven't recalibrated the big space. The kids all come in and say good morning to each other very loudly there. And that's pretty much it for the day. They've done their meeting and greeting, and they get on, they go out to lunch there, carry on. Traditional classroom, 28 kids, a very good teacher, he gets good results, English lesson. The sound is peaking, low, really peaking, gone to lunch, peaking, low, in mayhem. That's teacher's voice and kids. No, don't tell me that small rooms are quiet rooms. Far, 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 far from it. It's the social behaviours that are so important. And the kids, of course, work out what the social behaviours are. And look what you can do with those social behaviours. Look, here's a little geekiness for the afternoon. Here's a bunch of kids I'm working with in London a couple of years ago. Kids from Spain, kids from Denmark, kids from London, all together, and I'm having fun with them, dressing them up as binary numbers. We've got a kind of computer sciencey theme going on here, and they're pretty good at that. If I shouted 27 at you lot, I'm not sure if you could stand in the right place, but, you know, good luck. Here they are doing some programming, and with those little Raspberry Pis. Have you got Raspberry Pis in yet? Oh, who's a parent in the room? Hands up your parents. Okay, let's just buy a Raspberry Pi for your kids for Christmas. Don't. $30. I'll talk about what they are in a minute, but they're little naked computers. You can program yourself, really. So these kids are programming with Raspberry Pis. I'll show you some in a minute. And you can see, I'll show you now. So here's their Raspberry Pi. There it is, that little thing down there. It's I think they're $30. I saw one in hardware store in the city this weekend. And, you've got to get, you got one? You got one? Yeah, of course. Makey board, you get makey board. Arduino boards. Come on, Mum, sort around. How old were you when you got a phone, by the way, just in passing? Oh, okay. I'm saying to parents, phones are 4. So we'll come back to that in a minute. But yeah. You can, yeah. Go to raspberryfool.org. There's a little robotic chassis you can put your Pi on. Really cool. You can do some good stuff with it. It's quite cheap. So anyway, here's the kids. This one is doing. This is with a makey board. Here's a makey board, and the students have programmed a game already. They use Flash, but you're probably Python now, aren't you? Yeah. And their game is quite cool. You can control it with bananas. So there's an up banana, down banana, left banana, right banana, and that is the game controller. These are primary kids, so we expected them to be pretty sharp, and I've had them for 2 days with me, so hey, But also with them are some big kids, students really. And by the way, this lot have said to teachers, come and play our game, use the bananas, see how they've explained it gently for their teachers. And meanwhile, the big kids were busy helping the little kids, of course that works, and were a bit scared of what they were seeing. If you were working with some little sort of 9-year-olds and they were already doing something cool, you'd want to do something pretty cool to show them back, of course you would. So they thought, how cool is this? If they got hold of one of those parrot drones, the things you can fly with your phone. You've all seen them, where you kind of fly them. There was one in the paper the other day here. They were flying over somebody bathing topless in the garden. You must have seen that headline, front page of every newspaper. And it was a real estate agent. Of course it was. They're all sorry. Are the real estate agents with us tonight? No, of course not. They've all lost their moral compass. How would they find their way? I didn't mean that, of course. No, well, I did. So, this lot thought if we could fly the drone with a Raspberry Pi, that'd be pretty cool. Because you think you've got to hack the code between the drone and the phone, and you don't want any of the numbers out. Because then you've got to. So they said, okay, there's 5 variables. Put a 10 into that one. Put a 10 in. The drone shot up to the ceiling, stayed there for an hour and after the battery ran out, and then fell on somebody. So they're right. That one's height then, we know. So this is hard stuff. And of course, they were pretty brave. They wrote some code, as you do. I don't know if you've done. They started wearing white coats. Which I thought was pretty cool. It's like, hey, computer scientists now. And Richard here was, it's pretty good actually. These were. So of course, after 4 days, there's Richard. There's the drone. The drone is flying. But can you see that little hint of yellow there? You know what he did, didn't you? He got the damn thing flying with the bananas. And that's pretty hard for 4 days. That's pretty hard. But suddenly this stuff is spectacularly attainable. Spectacularly attainable. And there's kind of no limit on what you can do with it, really. Here's a bunch of students back in the little learner-led world there, who found their classroom was too noisy, but the staircase was even noisier. So they thought maybe here they are, measuring with the digital meter the noise on the stairs, and the girls are videoing their feet. They're walking. You walk on your heels, noisy. If you walk on the front of your feet, it's really hard. Stamp as hard as I like, it's quieter. So they put a little video on the school network saying, here's how to walk quietly. But kids are kids, so they said, while we're here, let's build a little Raspberry Pi project. We'll put the Raspberry Pi on the rail there, and it'll flash red if you walk too noisily. So you walk down with big feet, flashes red, everybody knows, they point at you. Great fun, all this. And here's one of my current projects I'm really enjoying, which is to go into space. Do you remember Felix Baumgartner? Not so long ago, went up in space, jumped out of his balloon. You all saw the YouTube video, plummeted to Earth. He was very Austrian, wasn't he? Like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he kind of plummeted down. And we were worried for would he make it or not. 4 weeks after he went, a group of school children sent their teddy bear into space with the intention of beating him, and they sewed a Raspberry Pi into the chest of the teddy bear, and the teddy bear went whizzing up into space. I have some photos from, I don't think from the bear, but that was a photograph from the bear's camera. That's like in space. You know, the horizon is curved. It's black above and light below. And when the bear got to be, I think it's about 320 meters higher than Felix, the Raspberry Pi triggered the Lego ram, shoved the bear out of the balloon, and the balloon plummeted, the bear plummeted to Earth, and you learn a bit about mass and velocity and, you know, inertia, mass times velocity. So if the bear's not heavy and the Raspberry Pi doesn't matter how fast the bear's going, it's not going to be broken, and you'll get your pictures back, which they did. And the balloon went on up until it burst, which was even higher, and then fell to Earth. And so here's me in Jersey with a group of young mothers, returning mothers, and we're building the Jersey space program. Here it is. There's the T-shirt. And you can see the total cost of the Jersey space program. You could have a space program for Christmas. I mean, crikey, you got the Raspberry Pi. Helium-filled balloon is about, well, where are we? You get the balloon for, balloon down helium about $400. Raspberry Pi cam, which plugs in just double the numbers for dollars. These are all sterling. Which kind of borrow an aerial. You need some good batteries. Cheaper. You can see the total cost. This cost, ignore this. This cost my PhD student who's starving. I have to send him to all these things. Jersey's got loads of money, so I just kind of wrote him into the project. But these are returning mums. They're knitting their space capsule, you know, because they can. But in those spaces, which I'm just saying are for young and for old and for boys and for girls, we're building one of those in Barcelona and one of those in Madrid. And Telefonica are sponsoring all this, which is kind of them. And we're putting a telepresence glass wall in between. So imagine there was a wall down the middle of this gorgeous hall, and it's glass. So nothing has changed about what we've done today, except you can't stroke them, you know, or if you wanted to do some random snogging, you can't. You've only got the glass, which is hygienic, but less fun, I think, probably. But apart from that, if you're building a robot, and she's programming the robot, and he's interested in copying the robot, and you want to film it, how does that work with a glass wall? And by the way, they're all wearing Google Glass. You've seen the Google Glass, which we've given out to students. You can't get those yet because they haven't released them here. I'd have brought a suitcase full if I don't know. But they're lovely, you know, they're a pair of glasses with a camera, and, you know, you can have your friends in a Google Hangout. So I'm this side of the glass, you're on my Google Hangout, I'm doing soldering, you're watching what I'm doing. You can see how that would all work. Once we got the protocols in place from the students, then we build ones in the refugee camps in Jordan, in the tent cities in Haiti, and the students in our schools in Spain will be teaching the schools in the Middle East and Africa and everywhere else. That's a pretty cool feeling, isn't it, really? So you're kind of having fun with your stuff, and you're, thinking hard about how the school could be different. But the impact of that, the potential impact on that, of kids all around the world in their learning, is pretty something. And just to the students in the room, really, because I don't need to really say it to the rest of you, but I think maybe it's just worth reflecting. If I just jump off to here, that all around the world, students are busy running around with shirts on that say researcher, 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 trying to make their learning better. But if I go to, Liberia, students in Liberia have got none of this stuff, but they have got AK-47s, and they have got other stuff. I can persuade them to put those down and to come into school. But if you can't show them, and you are the wealthiest generation in the wealthiest country the world's ever known. Norway has more money, but they're saving all this. They just put in a huge savings fund, which may be right, may be wrong, but you're having fun with yours, I don't know a wealthier nation. So, in building better learning for your students, if you can't model how good that is, these guys will put down with a gun, and girls with a gun. They can have anything they like. They can eat where they like. They can do what they like. It's powerful with a gun. Put it down. Learning has got to be better than a gun, and it can be. But for that to be the case, you've got to push at making this better. You've got to say, how can we change all this? How can we improve what's out there? How can we transform the possibilities in front of it? If you do, they really will be transformed. Look, the data's pretty harsh. Here's Australia, 14-to-1 teacher to student ratio, better here. That doesn't mean all the teachers are teaching. Some of them are doing other stuff, but the best the world is going to achieve, the best it'll be 40-to-1. 2 billion kids, huge numbers of them out of education completely. 55 million kids never see school. That's before we start on the girls in Nigeria. You go to school, somebody throw acid in your face because you shouldn't be going as a girl, Or you go to school, they come and kidnap you, take you away, marry you off to somebody at 13 because you shouldn't be going. Well, you can build better learning for them. You can build something fabulous, And of course, something fab will include social media, won't it? In a fairly obvious sort of way. So, just some questions, Abby. I've got loads of stuff here to show you, but so you are literally in paradise. What do you need to know to make it better? And there's loads you could know to make it better. Yes. Was that a question, or were you just? I thought it was a queen for a moment. It was like a backward wave. Go on. Yeah, sure. Queen only waves with the back of her hand. It's a very important part of a trick. Sorry, yeah.
So there's a bit of a debate going on whether technology should be in schools or should iPads.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm a technology person.
Yeah.
But I can see the value in it, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in how you would sort of talk about that.
Okay, so I'll do teacher and parent line here. So of course it should be there, but it's a case of what you do. If you've got kids all sitting in rows facing the front, copying this. Teachers writing on the board and the kids are copying it. We have very clear evidence that copying from the board does not help their learning at all. The way your brain works, you remember items from the context of the item, who was in the room, what they were wearing, exclamation marks your teachers wrote on the board. That bit were done, they went round it 3 times. This is just for you. Don't want you to forget that. You remember those bits. If you copy it into your exercise book, all that narrative is lost, and we know you don't retain it. So, we do a lot of things in class, sitting kids down, facing the same direction, short lessons. Schools around the world are running one-day lessons. In Norway, one-day lessons are fab. If you were really into your subject, doing it for a whole day is brilliant. Rather than, we've got to stop, bell's gone, and I'm going to walk around randomly, and I'm going to get more books out. I've got to carry lots of books. How big was that backpack? How much in the locker, And then, do something else. Oh, okay, well, it's not worth starting. The bells are going to mercifully hear no bells, you know. This is a very enlightened head. You are very lucky to have this, man. Let me just say. So in school, adding technology to doing the wrong thing is still the wrong thing. And I've been into classrooms and seen kids sitting, you know, making notes on their iPad, copying from the wall. That's still like, duh. On the other hand, you know, if they're using them for some of the stuff we've been seeing, of course, that's an important part of their data capture and their ingenuity and their imagination. However, as parents, I am puzzled that parents are really late to come to technology because, and I don't know why, because you lot, I know, because I've seen how articulate your students are. Let me just say, cover your ears for a moment, but your students here aren't just articulate, they're insightful. And that's a school difference. That's really important. You've got thoughtful students. You know, America's full of students who will talk the hind legs off a donkey, but not thoughtfully. You know, they'll just talk. Your guys are sharp. And that really, really, really does matter. So I know that you've read to them when they were young. I know you spent hours, you know, reading. You've talked to them till the cows come home because they would not have discovered that early literacy if you hadn't talked and talked and talked. I was doing a thing with the National Literacy Project in England. I was talking to a mother whose child had started school with 13 words, half of which were expletives. So, which, you know, necessary but not sufficient, you might think, you know, not even necessary. And I said to her, in all honesty, why didn't you talk more to him? She was not a bad woman. You know, she wanted the best for her son. And she said, I kept waiting for him to talk to me. You know, that was, which of course, nobody had said that. So, I'll be there. A little parent moment then. So, as parents, you give your kids crayons, you give your kids books, you give your kids everything you can when they're young. You should give them technology. Let me show you what happened with, well, let me show you the grandchildren. I don't want to go back to my own children because that's a long way. So I said to, and look, you know about this stuff. Here's me learning to swim as a kid. I'm so old, I was born in black and white. So here's me learning to swim. And with some strange thing here, Lord have mercy, I don't know what that is, but water wings, you know. Well, now to learn to swim, we just throw them in the water. You know, here's my granddaughter posing for her swimming club photograph. We stole this from you. You guys did this before us. We stole all your coaches for the Olympics, and with them came all this knowledge. You know, I coached the elite coaches in the GB Team GB in the Olympic squad, so I know they're all Australians. And here they are a little later. Here's Emily at 5, Louis at 2, I think, swimming up to the camera for their swimming club photo. You know, so we took the armbands off them because they didn't need them. And here, look, here's you know about balance bikes. Take the wheels off the bike, put the kids on the bike. Emily at 2. Here's a hill. Shove her down the hill. Never been on a bike before. All children can ride bicycles. There are no children in the world that can't ride bicycles. If you get them on early enough, they can't stop, clearly. But, you know, that's not going to happen until they're 30 or so, you know. But, so then I said thoughtfully to little Emily, here's the deal, Emily. I said, when you can send me a text on a phone, I will buy you a phone and run it. So about a week later, I got this, and I realised, of course, I should have been more precise with my deal, you know. Damn. And you could see me saying to her mum, I suppose that was from Emily, was it? That's going to cost me a phone thing because, you know, I made the commitment. So I bought her a phone, and almost immediately, what children do is they build taxonomies of understanding. They say, oh, I know that situation. That's one of those. If you drove here, do you remember learning to drive as a youngster? It was quite hard, you know, steering and gears and crikey, tricky stuff. You drove here, you weren't thinking about steering. But if you saw a kangaroo by the roadside or, you know, a child with a dog and you're with the child, but you're some distance from it, the child's too far to reach and the dog's not on a lead and there's a truck, you say, I know this situation, so one of them and one of them, and I'm going to slow down. So you build those internal taxonomies. And we know that's how you build language too now. It's not, the old, you'd have been taught as youngsters that Chomsky told you learn grammar by, you understand, you have an innate understanding of doing words and seeing words and being words. Tosh, you copy everything and put it in boxes is how it works. So I'm really excited, as Amelie's excited, that she's now got a box called Selfie, and she ticked it, and there's a conversation that she's having to learn to read, and she doesn't spell all that good, but she's, and started school yet. And then I get pretty pleased that she says things like, when she starts school, I get messages like this from her at 5, because she's saying, pretty smugly, I've just printed this. Well, yeah, I knew that. I bought the 3D printer for the school. So, try not to be surprised, Grandad. And then I'm trying to impress her by saying, well, look, the hotel I'm in has got a television set in the bath, and she's like, that's so old, Who watches telly? Do you watch television much? Not much. Not as much as your mum. I mean, less and less. And if you were going to change one thing, it would be the passive viewing, the passive consumption of television. You want to be rewarded cognitively for doing, not for watching. Buy them a phone, give them an hourglass, put it on the television, so that's your viewing. When it's over, it's over. You want to view more than the hourglass? That's fine, give me the phone back. Do it at 4 would be my advice. And so it gets more exciting because then, of course, she's starting to build understanding of others. So here I go dredging on my boat. She's saying, did you eat them? Now, you know how hard it is to put your mind in the position of another person and to be empathetic. Teenagers, they struggle with that if we haven't done what they do in Spain, which is to work really hard at. Imagine how it would be to be her. So she's imagining she was an oyster. Did you eat them? Thinking all the... And of course, as well as that, she knows that a text message is not an email. So here's an email to me. She's 5 now. And it's a sort of poem, which spells Grandad, of course, if you're into that sort of stuff. The spelling's still pretty, it's got some work to be done, but, we're in a phonics world, so it sounds out the right way. And you think, well, hang on a minute. Surely, Stephen, she's turned into a teenager where you have to physically crowbar her fingers off the phone at night when she goes to bed. The answer is no, because we didn't make it such a special thing that she had to wait for it until she was 10. Pretty much anything you've got to wait for years becomes pretty special. So she'll put her phone down and leave it for a week and say, oh, where's my phone? I don't know. And then pick it up again. But that's what you did with crayons. That's what you did with Play-Doh. That's what you did with books. That's what you did with everything. Why wouldn't you do that with technology? So I said 2 bits to the answer. Schools, yeah, but teach differently. Parents, come on, parents. Sorry, you had a question, sorry.
The historical perspective on all of this technology is really interesting, and it'll be interesting to see where we are in 20 years' time. I think one of the things that concerns parents is where things like replacing books with electronic devices, we get quite worried about that because there's all of this idea about the smell of the book and the tactile sensation of turning the page and all of these things you feel like your child might be missing out on.
Let me go through all that because I'm with you on that. High five, And by the way, here's little Josie reading to her baby brother, who's desperate to be able to read because same deal when he sent me a text, but I've tightened up the rule a bit. So he's really got to stomp on a bit. So listen, I love books. I have a library in my house. I just spent the last 3 days with the Victorian Library Service folk. But not all books are good books. And clearly an encyclopedia is out of date the minute it's printed. But actually in 20 years' time, it's quite interesting again because look at what we used to say about nuclear power or look at global warming. Your bloke's still on the 50-year-old encyclopedia, isn't he? So that's sort of interesting. And in France, the weight of books in backpacks has been legislated for because coming to school And if you're going to school, you've seen the kids in France, enormous backpacks, literally physically damaging. And they're textbooks. Why wouldn't textbooks be always online? On the other hand, you know, I'd love to sit down with a novel, but it's curious what's happened to me, and I don't know about the rest of you, but I read books on a device differently to in my hand. So in my hand, you know, I love to stick a bus ticket in and see I'm nearly there, and I love the patina of, I remember reading this when I was a kid, you know, and I like the sort of turning over a page and, you know, going back to that page, and I remember that bit happens just after the chapter heading. Of course, on my electronic device, if I change the font, it goes all over the place. And I sit on a charity in America called EduCurious. We're doing work trying to get children back into reading. It's a huge issue for authors because when they're developing children's teenage literature, the sentence at the bottom of every page is a page turner. So you think, you know, you're reading your way through Twilight, and you think, oh, is it the snog now? Oh, no, it's not, you know. And at the bottom of every page, you're waiting for that. So when you change the typeface, those cues that turn over the page are lost. And they know the completion rates electronically are going down. So it's a much more complicated thing than it looks. But what I do, and I've got on the books I have on here, you know, I'm in Australia for all of November every year. So what have I got on here? I've got, it's the same as the music I've got on here. It's stuff I quite like to go back to, but I'm not going to sit and play the whole album. So I kind of pop up Huxley's Brave New World and read my favourite bit about that and say, well, things could be worse, you know. Or, you know, or I'll read Shaw's prefaces. I've got a lot of poetry on here. Just read bits of it. I've also got Arthur Ransom books on here because I loved them as a kid. Just sometimes, why wouldn't you? There's no weight, you know. So just pop them on. And I just think at the moment, we're doing that thing that happens at the beginning of technology, which is, let's replicate exactly what we did, but with technology. And I think it's changing. Think about Dickens. You know, Dickens was writing for an occasional magazine, you know, Penny Dreadfuls, really. And every chapter, people had to, what's going to happen next week, you know. So, you know, Dickens doesn't fit in a novel form very well. You should get into every chapter, and then the power should go off, and you can't see it for a week, you know. So I think we're seeing new forms of writing appearing on here. I'm very excited by.
And what's the downside to technology if you don't apply it? Well, I guess this is the big question.
Yeah.
It's like if you use it inappropriately, things are going to go backwards rather than forwards for education in some way.
Yes, but I would just say, slightly defensively, I think I would just say that so much of what we do in education is so backward. You know, for example, in England, we have a long summer holiday, and people left from England to come here. I've just read the book of the First Fleet, which is jaw-dropping, you know. But when they arrived, they adopted the same habit. That's because our kids all worked in the fields picking crops in the summer. So our long summer holiday is for harvesting. But it's not many kids in London doing a lot of harvesting. And I've not seen the kids in Melbourne, you know, saying, hello, you know, I better get my sleeves rolled up, where's my wicker basket? But we still do it, you know. And we still, you know, we still ring bells not in Lighton schools, but in other places, and we still have 30 kids in a class, and we still do. So loads we do that's pretty tough. Look, let me have a look at this little thing for a minute. And I might need just a look for it. But this is sort of salutary thing, really. So yeah, here we go. So here's a nice illustration of what can change. So you don't need me to point out, and none of the kids are sitting on chairs, and school's got way too much furniture. And by the way, when the school comes to the parents and says we need more money for furniture, just say burn half of what you got. You know, they'd all sooner sit on the floor. You know, it's better. But what's going on here is 2 kids driving 2 laptops, and 2 kids are passengers. Do you see what I mean? So passive, you know, passive, active. But behind there are 4 kids working a tablet. And it's working quite well. They're sharing it between them. So the tablet might not work great on a desk put upright for writing on a one-on-one thing, but it works really well as a space for collaboration. So, I think we just need to leave our eyes on and look around. But if we were to think about the pace of change of all this, you kind of know you can't hang on. Look, here's, because I do this stuff with the Olympic stuff, this is David Beckham at the China Olympics closing, saying, "Come to London," kicking a ball off a London bus, I think it was. Never mind all that. Everybody in the audience has got a digital camera. Everybody. And of course, by the time we get, so here I am, trackside, here's Bolt coming around. Bolt has bolted. And, he's surrounded by a sea of people with big cameras. But it's too late because already everybody in the audience has shot video with their phones. And you know that by the time we get to Rio, they'll be wearing their Google Glass and we'll all be live broadcasting, So if we don't move quickly, we miss the opportunity to harness this stuff. And I think that's, we were just going to glance at other people's classrooms around the world. But just before we do, I just want to take you back to your own school days. Do you remember this from your school days? Of course you do. So the question here was, is A longer or is B longer? You won't have seen this. They don't inflict this sort of nonsense on you anymore. Is A longer? Is B longer? Are they perhaps both the same? Okay, audience, test. Who thinks A is longer? And who thinks B is longer? And who thinks they're maybe both the same? I love this because you're completely wrong. A is miles bigger. And I sort of think this is what's happened in schools. You've got to kind of rub your eyes and look at what you thought you were seeing, and it's not what you saw before. It is something. Look, in Sydney. So, I don't know if I should tell you about it. Can I tell you about Sydney? I feel like a traitor. But if I tell you that I own a bicycle in Melbourne, you'll forgive me. But in Sydney, if we look at the local paper, there's a proposed school starting. It's starting a trend. It was all over Twitter. And here's the school. So I've been given, rather generously by the City Council, I've been given a university. And they said, "Stephen, can you turn Linfield UTS site into a school?" And I've said, "Yeah." What would you say? Bring it on, And so the school is characterized by these things. And I wouldn't be part of it if it wasn't doing this. And look, birth through to degree level and beyond. So, you'd be happy to go to college at 15. How good would it be if, at 17, you've got a year left of your degree, you've got no fees to pay because you're still at school, just pay your school fees. You're out of here at 18 with a degree, back in here at 19 as a teacher, if you want. Or you could, real estate agent, I'm hoping to offend anyone. For a while, you won't do it for long. Or stage, not age, so everybody going at their pace. You're a good reader at 6, go and sit with the 10-year-olds. You're great with maths, why would you have to wait for him? Why don't you go sit with her, Or strong vertical structures. As a parent, every teacher of the little group of 300 children that your children will be in between birth and graduation, university graduation. Or, we're going to do everything around project-based work. Now, I just went back to Sydney, huge public consultation, Christmas until July, went back to Sydney in July, said to the parents, "What have you chosen? All these things we could do, what have you chosen?" And you know what they said? Bring it on. We've chosen everything. Every feature we want in the school. We don't want to wait. We don't want to do one bit see if the others, we want a lot. We want kids who are going fast, we want kids who know their teachers' names, we want all this stuff, the whole lot. And that's a pretty brave call, pretty brave call. So, what does that look like? I'll give you the copy afterwards, don't worry. So what does that look like? Gets to be pretty interesting. If I'm looking at that project-based work, you do some project-based work here, don't you, Jude? Look, here are some project-based work examples. Let's go. I love this one. This is maths and art. We're doing linear equations. The linear equations are generating artworks. If you want to do art, you've got to do linear equations. If you want to do linear equations, you've got to do art. So it's the same subject at the same time. Or this other one over here, that's probably a little bit. I love this. So the kids have to find a speech they think is important. So there's a sort of a citizenship thing going on there. They take the speech and they have to typeset it on an A4 page. It's quite hard, think about a layout, pick the right speech, And by the way, they have to build a frame, there's a bit of woodwork, and the frame goes around it, and of course, and then they read the speech compellingly, point your camera at the QR code, there's a word now, point your camera at the QR code, you'll hear them reading the speech. And then they take the text of the speech and they feed the laser etcher in the makerspace, and it turns the words of the speech into the face of the person who made the speech. That's quite hard to do well. You have to sort of fiddle. A bit like, if you're old enough to remember Lith film, a bit like playing around with the contrast and all that. And then you've got to put that in another wooden box. It's got to be the right size. And then you've got an LED with a circuit board to go in the back. And that's the whole thing. So how many subjects are you delivering? And as the parents are walking around, they're seeing the work. And, that's citizenship, it's tech, it's electronics, you don't need me to spell it out, you're fab. But that sort of sense of how fast would you be going if you're doing all that stuff at the same time? The answer is blinking fast. And by the way, if you're a bit of a reluctant wirer, you're probably going to get up to speed with wiring just to keep up with the other stuff you like doing. So, yeah. 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 So let me reflect quickly on that. Montessori, Steiner, Reggio Emilio, they've all got nice bits about them that you would want to adopt. They've all got problems too. So Steiner struggled with if a submarine comes up in the river, you can study submarines. If it doesn't, you can't. And they struggle with technology, I think, in big argument going on in Steiner about what they do in technology, which are, some of them I think have resolved now. But you're right, and if you go to Silicon Valley, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, they all went to schools of that nature. But I think just having a code and sticking to it misses the point now of this is changing so fast. I think what you need is a questioning in school. I mean, you've got articulate, bright children who are dying from what we saw at lunchtime to chip into, how can we do this better? And, how we used to do it is part of how we do it better. But what might we add to that, So, yeah, I'd start with Montessori and, take that and that and that from it. And I'd nick that from Steiner and all of that from Reggio. So. So, the homework, as you know, perhaps is having a bit of a coloured press at the moment in research terms. I think the trite comment that's fairly accurate is send a kid home with a worksheet if they can't do it. They can't do it if they can do it. Why did you give them the worksheet? So there's a bit of a mess about homeworks, and people have talked about trying to flip learning so the kids go home with the hard stuff and do the other stuff at school. Do the sort of menial stuff at home and do the hard stuff at school when their teacher's nearby. But I think, in all honesty, homeworks need to be not time-filling, and parents, how hard it is. to get children to sit down and give up, another hour of the time to do something that they don't value. Whereas on the other hand, look, let me give you a simple example. We're not going to log on very well, are we? But if I go to Google and type free essay online, I get about 33 million hits at the moment. And you've had a bit of a scandal here in Australia with the girls who set up a kind of essay writing agency. We're doing all right as far as I could see. So, and if you go to buy essay online, you get about 27 million hits. So between the two of them, that's about 50 million sites out there that will give an essay. So if I set a homework for the lad here, and I say, go and write an essay, he'd have to be spectacularly stupid to go home and write it and not just download one and fiddle around with it, because why would he waste the time, On the other hand, if the question I gave him was, here's an essay title, go and download a couple of essays that meet that title. Take one, improve it substantially, and show your workings. That's a nice task, because I've really got to understand the stuff. I've got to be able to critique it. I've got to be able to understand sources. I'll be in a position in the exam room to do that again for myself, because, to construct something, I need to be able to deconstruct it. And if I can't deconstruct, how will I critique it? So if we set good homeworks, and by the way, it would be even better if I said, the three of you, find an essay between you and really attack it together, and then together present what you've learned. That'd be great, because then I've got collaboration and exhibition and teamwork, and we're full of leadership, but nobody seems to teach followership anymore, which is really, really important. As you know, none of you are working in companies where everybody's a leader. How do I learn to follow patiently and bite my tongue a bit through this? So if we set the tasks right, they're fab. But if I'm giving kids meaningless tasks to do meaninglessly for homework, then I'm with them. I'd go to Google and get it sorted. And there is no technology that will catch them. If I download an essay and I go into Google Translate and I translate it into Hungarian, then I translate it back into English, and then I tidy up the grammar because it'll be a bit messy. There's no way you do the pattern matching to match that as you are unfound. I can tell you that now. It's just, every child on the planet knows this. Universities pay a fortune for software called, what's it called? Turn it in. Yeah, turn it in is great. Turn it in is just, how naive would you have to be to think it worked, You'll catch the kids who are asleep, but that's all, That's anybody who's stupid enough to be caught by turning in, just turn them out, It's like, really, So, of course, yeah.
Question, how's it going to change our workplace environment? Children coming through, different ways and styles of learning, and then moving into the workplace.
Well,
Workplace don't actually cater for those.
it's funny you should say that, and there's lots to say about that, really. Should I go for the trite or the serious? Let's go for the trite. This is the IBM asking there's a survey of 1,500 chief executives what they wanted in an employee, and this is pretty much like a letter home expelling a child. You can sort of see, she's going to have to go. She spends all her time trying to alter the status quo. She just, frankly, seems to be comfortable with ambiguity, and she seems to invite disruption everywhere she goes. And I'm sorry, we're going to have to let her go. So there's a rigidity about schools that isn't in the workplace, and so that's interesting because, and by the way, I was in High Tech High the other day in San Diego, where the kids' uniform, and I like school uniforms. Let me say right away, but I like them all the more when the children do the design work and think about, what do we wear? San Diego, the school uniform is you have to be ready for work, which meant basically tie, collar, that shirt, tie, you're ready for work. But when they went out to do their internships, they said, people are wearing shorts and T-shirts. We haven't seen a tie in a month. So like, nobody dresses like that anymore, So the sort of, the sense that it's come on a bit, I think is really quite important. When we look at what those spaces are like. It's pretty cute. Here's Telefonica in Spain, and it has some pretty cute features. You can see they're writing on the walls. They've got big collaborative environments. They've got table for. This looks like the best, sixth form centre you could have ever built, and it's their workplace. It's even better than you think because it's playful. It does things like the last person in the lift. It captures their pulse rate, and the light bulbs all pulse with the last person to get out of the lift. So you kind of like, he's a shy one, It's a lot of fun, or here's maybe, what else have I got here? Oh, here's Digital Jersey. So this is the workplace we built for a startup in Jersey to try and break Jersey out of doing the sort of things it used to do. And this is a new workplace environment in Jersey. This is a wall made of doors, Here's the umbrellas on the ceiling to keep the sound down. Here's second-hand furniture from all over because we're mashing up better learning. There's a central table, but that's about all. Here's look, the furniture's made from gas piping. It's a very funky place indeed. When you come in, it says, "Hey, welcome." Well, you can see what it says. It's pretty informal. So the world of work our students are going out into is not the world of schools anymore, of the formality. You need this playfulness and informality. Otherwise, where's he going to go, And if you turned up at an interview and they say, "What are you like as a team player?" You say, "Search me, I've been at school for 14 years. Give us a job and let's gamble." You're not going to get employed, Or if you walk into the room and you say, "Where's my desk then?" And the whole place is hot desking and you need to get there early for the best seats and where do I leave my stuff? Where do I leave my books? Well, we don't do books anymore, how are you going to fit? And it is moving pretty fast, Here's, the spaces we're looking at here look awfully like the spaces we've been looking at in those new schools. So, and by the way, Google's just given me a large amount of money to build a learning space for students because they said, and I quote, we don't know enough about learning. We know how to be playful, but we want more learning in our space. So, it's changing really fast, and it's not the front-running schools that are out of step. It's some of the dull old companies. That's the. There was a hand there somewhere. Yeah. So.
You're showing us lots of terrific modern learning environments.
Yeah. By the way, don't feel you have to stay go. I mean, we're way over time, but I'll talk for hours. If you want. I don't care.
We engage with our student or parent community, I guess, to embrace that change. A lot of big fee paying traditionalists probably sending their students to the school. How do we get them to embrace the change?
I think with hard data, the results in the schools I'm working in, I'll give you some numbers. These are on their websites. Go to ELTHAM College. You'll find our high school completion rate, graduation. It's gone up from 3% when we started to 50. I beg your pardon. It's gone up from 57% when we started to 53% when we started to 97% now. And we've only been open. This is our 4th year. University places, that was the 3% figure I had locked in my brain, gone up from 3 to 37 in that same period of time. External exams, school I built in the South Coast, have gone through the roof, 400% gain in passes. Just huge figures. And that really talks to parents.
I'll finish with a really sad story. Last school, we had a group of boys wanted to put a balloon in space. They had done the whole list. They'd gone right out there. They drove up to Mildura, had all the paperwork done. The insurance company said it was all okay. Night before, they got a fax or an email or something from CASA. Sorry, you can't let the balloon up. We don't have any regulations around this. You're not allowed to do it. And then they've been gazumped by people subsequently. But this was a group of 15-year-olds, and they'd done the whole thinking about how big the balloon needed to be. Now, one of them is now at MIT. If we can get that type of thinking right, and you get it right down below, when you get up, VC looks after itself.
Yeah, it does.
But if we focus on the VC and work backwards from that, we're doing our kids an enormous amount of harm.
the secret weapon is always engagement. You know, students who are engaged in their learning 24/7 produce results that are jaw-dropping. Students who stop and start and stop and is it on the exam paper? You know, you'll make 10% gains if you're lucky. But you could be a student.
Finland example at the end was this, it was fantastic for me. That Finland example right there at the end when you said how well they're doing.
Yeah.
And will they ever do it again?
Shall I show you a worse one then?
That's it.
Because the worst one here is, let me just, as you go, map suicide rates against those scores too. And you'll see how bad it can be. It can be even worse, you know. So we want kids who love their subjects and aren't despairing because of their learning. So Cam, I wasn't going to show this. A bit depressing to finish on, but, you know, but you can do better. You know, go off and do it. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you very much.